For months now, it feels like every single time the Steelers came up, I ended up circling back to one topic: wide receiver 2. That WR2 spot has been the center of so many conversations, debates, and questions that I was honestly starting to sound like a broken record. And I get it, man. It's easy to obsess over something when it feels like the missing piece. But just recently, something changed. Or at least my perspective did. I wouldn't say I've completely flipped, but it's definitely evolved. And today we're going to unpack exactly why. Good morning to everyone tuning in. It's a Thursday, it's football season, and we've got a ton to talk about when it comes to your Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though training camp has officially wrapped, today might bring one of the most interesting moments of the entire preseason. At Acrisure Stadium, yes, the stadium, not the practice facility, the Steelers and the Buccaneers are holding a joint practice. It kicks off this afternoon, and while it's closed to the public, the media will be allowed in. But here's the twist. Due to NFL rules, we're back under regular season restrictions when it comes to reporting. That means no play-by-play descriptions, no telling you exactly who did what, unless a coach or a player goes on the record about it. And just to make it more complicated, Mike Tomlin is speaking before the practice, not after. So, the chances of any detailed insights slipping out? Slim to none. Now, that doesn't make this practice irrelevant. Not by a long shot. What makes these joint sessions so valuable, even behind closed doors, is the fact that they're controlled. They're scripted to allow teams to experiment, push certain matchups, and even throw in concepts they wouldn't dare show in a preseason game. It's like a chess match with a hidden board. The coaches love it. They get real work in without the game day pressure. And although we might not get to see everything ourselves, these kinds of sessions can answer a lot of internal questions teams are still sorting through as the regular season creeps closer. But there's one question that won't be answered today. In fact, it's not even being asked right now because it doesn't directly relate to a controlled practice setting. And that's the WR2 issue, the second wide receiver spot that's been hanging out there all offseason. Yeah, we talked about it. A lot. Probably too much. But I'll tell you this, it's still unresolved. Even though the Steelers have made moves that seem to ease the pressure, the truth is this thing is still wide open. Remember when Omar Khan went out and brought in Jonnu Smith? That was a turning point for me. Up until that moment, I was convinced the Steelers needed to go get a legit number 2 receiver, a real outside threat to line up opposite Metcalf and take pressure off the top guy. But when Jonnu came in, I had to take a step back. Because that move changed the shape of the offense more than people realize. It wasn't just about adding a tight end. It was about adding a weapon, a versatile, proven, do-it-all kind of player who could shake up how this team attacks defenses. And let's be real, Jonnu didn't stumble into 88 catches and 883 yards last year in Miami. That didn't happen by accident. He was the leading receiver for the Dolphins at any position. He lined up all over the place, tight, wide in the slot. And now, back with Arthur Smith, the same coach who got the most out of him in Tennessee and later in Atlanta, there's a real chance we see Jonnu used in a hybrid role that blurs the traditional lines between tight end and receiver. Not a WR2 in the strictest sense, but definitely a guy who can take on WR2 responsibilities in certain formations. And that's where things get interesting. Because if you've got Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, that's a heavy, tight end room with serious potential. Throw in some running backs who can catch the ball, and suddenly, you got a playbook that's looking a lot more layered. You've got options. You got chess pieces. But you also still have a gap. And that gap, in my mind, has less to do with who's second on the wide receiver depth chart, and more to do with this: who's backing up Metcalf? Because that's the real concern. It's not just about lining up someone across from him. It's about having someone who can actually replace him if he goes down. That's where the WR2 conversation has always felt a little off. If Metcalf is playing his own unique role in this offense, one that no one else really replicates, then shouldn't the real question be, who's next in line for that specific role? Let's not forget what happened when George Pickens missed time last year. The offense didn't just look different, it looked lost. You can plug in another body, sure, but no one could come close to replicating what Pickens did downfield. There was no one else on the roster who even attempted those types of plays. And that, to me, is the real hole. That's why I've been saying for a while now that the Steelers need someone like Mike Williams. A veteran, a boundary guy, someone who's got experience running those vertical routes and making contested catches. A guy who can come in, even for a short stint, and hold down the fort if Metcalf isn't available. And yeah, I know, it's a specific profile, but that player type does exist. Mike Williams is just an example, obviously. But think about what he brought to the table when he briefly landed in Pittsburgh. He helped them win a game at Landover and then vanished from the offense. The guy had it, even in his 30s. Maybe he didn't have the burst anymore, but he still had the route tree, the timing, the hands. He had that savvy, veteran edge that you just can't fake. So I've kept scanning the free agent market, hoping to see a name pop up that fits the bill. And yeah, Odell Beckham Jr. is a name that always comes up in these conversations. I get it. He's got history with Aaron Rodgers. He's a big name, and he's out there posting workout clips on social media, swearing he's not done. But let's be real. He played 9 games in Miami last season and caught 9 passes. 9 catches. 55 yards. That's not even close to WR2 production. That's a sign, man. That's the league telling you something. So no thanks. Then there's Tyler Boyd. He's a name people throw out for obvious reasons. Local ties, played at Pitt, long-time Bengal. But Boyd's a slot receiver. He's always been a slot receiver. The last time he lined up outside consistently was in college. You're not going to reinvent the wheel at this point in his career. Great player, great story, but not the answer here. We also know the Steelers inquired about Terry McLaurin. That's been reported. But once they heard he wanted to be a number 1 receiver, no dice. That's not happening here. There's also a visit from Gabe Davis not long ago. But there's a reason that didn't go anywhere. Injury concerns. So what does that leave us? Well, here's a name I keep coming back to, and it hasn't left my mind once this entire offseason. Amari Cooper. Yeah, he's 31. Yeah, he's bounced around a bit. But here's what matters. This guy still has gas in the tank. He put up over 1,000 yards in both 2022 and 2023 while in Cleveland. That's not ancient history. That's recent, real, high-level production. Now, sure, his numbers dipped last season after the mid-year trade to Buffalo. 44 catches, 547 yards. But that's not some catastrophic drop-off. He was targeted 85 times. The year before that, 128 targets. That's what changed. Not his ability, his usage. And let's be honest, you can't catch the ball if they don't throw it to you. So, if you're asking me, Amari still makes sense. Maybe not as your long-term solution. Maybe not as your high-flying WR2 next to Metcalf every snap. But as that insurance policy? As that bridge, if something happens to your number 1 guy? That's the kind of move that gives you peace of mind heading into the regular season. And peace of mind matters, especially when the margins are this thin. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why are we spending this much time worrying about a guy who might not even see the field unless someone gets hurt? And yeah, I hear you. But that's the trap, isn't it? That kind of thinking is exactly how you end up watching your offense sputter for 3 straight quarters after your number 1 guy tweaks a hamstring. Depth isn't just about filling out a roster. It's about sustainability. It's about giving your quarterback a fighting chance, even when the worst-case scenario hits. That's why this conversation still matters, even with all the other pieces coming into place. Because let's talk about those other pieces for a second. Calvin Austin. Man, people love bringing up Calvin as a breakout candidate, and I get it. He's got the speed. He's electric with the ball in his hands. But here's where people get it twisted. He was never supposed to be the WR2 in the traditional sense. That was never the plan. What Arthur Smith has envisioned for him, what we've heard internally, is more of a gadget role. A slot and motion guy. Jet sweeps, quick outs, screens, punt returns. Think WR3 with a very specific skill set. And that's not a knock on him. It's just a different lane. I mean, you can go back to minicamp when Zach Azzanni, the wide receivers coach, said Calvin was the WR2. But even then, you had to read between the lines. I don't think he was talking about the role. I think he was talking about the depth chart. As in, yeah, he's second on the list behind Metcalf. But in terms of what he's actually being asked to do in the offense, totally different. So, you've got Metcalf in his own universe, Calvin Austin in a specialist role, and then you've got Jonnu Smith crashing the party and muddying the waters even more, in a good way. Because now, Arthur Smith has this chessboard with all these different pieces that don't fit neatly into boxes. And if there's one thing Arthur's known for, it's creativity. He doesn't care about labels. He cares about matchups. And what that means is that we could be heading into a season where formations are unpredictable, personnel groupings change drive to drive, and defenses have no idea what's coming next. But again, none of that erases the fact that there's still no clear-cut, plug-and-play, outside receiver behind Metcalf. The guy who mirrors him. The guy who can step into that role, run those routes, win those matchups, and keep the offense afloat when the inevitable injuries start piling up. And look, it's the NFL. Somebody's going down. It happens every year. So are you ready for that? Or are you going to panic and start trying to convert a slot guy into a boundary threat in Week 6? That's why I keep coming back to Amari. He's not flashy anymore. He's not going to make your Twitter feed blow up with highlight reels. But he's a technician. He's polished. He's reliable. And most importantly, he understands how to operate in an NFL offense. You give him a route tree, and he'll run every single branch like it's clockwork. And maybe that's not exciting, but it's what wins games in December. It's what saved drives on 3rd and 7. It's what makes life easier on your quarterback when the pocket collapses and the hot read has to be perfect. And speaking of the quarterback, man, let's not forget who we're talking about under center. Aaron Rodgers. This isn't a young, developing guy who needs reps and patience and hand-holding. This is a future Hall of Famer. He's not here to build for the future. He's here to win right now. So when you're constructing the offense around him, that changes the calculus. You don't wait for rookies to develop. You don't hope a second-year guy suddenly figures out how to run crisp routes outside the numbers. You give him veteran targets who understand leverage, timing, and spacing. You give him receivers who know how to find soft spots in zones and adjust on the fly. Because that's the level Rodgers is playing at. And if the guys around him can't keep up mentally, it's game over. So yeah, I'll keep banging the drum for another veteran wideout. I'll keep watching the free agent market and looking for that one move that brings it all together. Because when the season starts, you don't want to be asking yourself, what if? You want to know that you're covered, that you built the offense the right way, that you got weapons, that you've got answers. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The whispers began swirling around Pittsburgh late last night, the kind of low, buzzing chatter that spreads quickly through both locker rooms and sports bars. According to sources close to the situation, the Steelers are on the verge of pulling off one of the most intriguing free agent acquisitions in recent memory, the addition of DJ Reed to their already formidable defensive backfield. While nothing has been officially confirmed, several insiders have hinted that conversations between Reed's camp and the Steelers' front office have been ongoing for weeks, possibly even months, behind closed doors. The move, if finalized, would signal a dramatic shift in Pittsburgh's defensive philosophy, emphasizing suffocating man-to-man coverage over their more traditional zone-heavy schemes. Fans who have followed Reed's career in New York know that his aggressive style and ability to shadow elite receivers make him a nightmare for opposing offenses. The question lingering in the air is whether this potential signing is a bold stroke of genius by the Steelers or a high-risk gamble that could disrupt the chemistry of a secondary that has been carefully built over the past few seasons. Still, in a league where the margins between victory and defeat are razor-thin, adding a player like Reed could be the difference-maker everyone is talking about. If the rumor proves true, the Steelers could be entering a new chapter in their defensive identity, one that harks back to the hard-nosed, fear-inducing secondaries of their storied past. DJ Reed, known for his tenacity and ability to close passing windows in the blink of an eye, could fit seamlessly into a unit that thrives on physicality and discipline. Reports suggest that head coach Mike Tomlin has been personally involved in evaluating Reed's game tape, impressed not just by his athleticism, but also by his football IQ and adaptability. Some insiders believe Tomlin envisions Reed as the missing puzzle piece opposite their current shutdown corner, creating a tandem capable of erasing the league's most dangerous receiving duos. The potential pairing has already sent ripples through the AFC North rumor mill, with rival teams allegedly preparing contingency plans should Pittsburgh's pass defense take a significant leap forward. Reed's arrival would not only raise the floor of the Steelers' coverage schemes, but could also allow their pass rush more time to reach quarterbacks, compounding the pressure on opponents. While it remains to be seen whether this is a smoke screen or the real deal, the possibility alone has energized a fan base always hungry for bold moves. Behind the scenes, agents and team representatives have reportedly been engaged in quiet but intense discussions over the structure of a potential contract. One source, speaking under condition of anonymity, hinted that the Steelers are willing to make a competitive offer, though the exact figures remain tightly guarded. The negotiation process is said to revolve not just around salary, but also the role Reed would be guaranteed in the defensive rotation. Insiders suggest he's not looking to merely be another cog in the machine. He wants to be a centerpiece. This ambition aligns perfectly with Pittsburgh's rumored plans to revamp their secondary around a more aggressive man-press approach, leveraging Reed's skill set to its fullest potential. However, there's also the question of timing. With the NFL draft approaching, the Steelers must weigh whether securing Reed now could influence their draft board and overall roster-building strategy. Some within the organization reportedly see this as an opportunity to make a statement signing before draft day, sending a clear message to the rest of the league that Pittsburgh is dead serious about challenging for the AFC crown. Such a declaration, even in the form of an unconfirmed rumor, can shift narratives fast. The buzz on social media has only amplified the intrigue, with fans and analysts dissecting every piece of information, real or perceived, about Reed's potential move to Pittsburgh. Hashtags combining his name with the Steelers brand have trended intermittently over the past 24 hours, fueled by speculative tweets from former players and current insiders. Film breakdowns of Reed's previous performances have begun circulating online, often highlighting his ability to shadow receivers step for step and his knack for breaking up contested catches. Some particularly optimistic fans are already envisioning Reed draped over the likes of Jamar Chase or Amari Cooper in crucial late-season matchups, delivering momentum-shifting plays. Others urge caution, noting that while Reed's skill set is undeniable, transitioning into a new system, especially one as tradition-bound and execution-focused as Pittsburgh's, comes with its own challenges. The narrative has become one of anticipation tinged with suspense, as supporters eagerly await either confirmation or denial. In the absence of official word from the franchise, every subtle social media move, every liked post, and every cryptic emoji from players becomes part of the collective detective work. If this rumor does evolve into reality, it could be remembered as one of the pivotal moments in the Steelers' recent history. DJ Reed's potential presence in black and gold is not just about upgrading talent. It's about signaling a shift in ambition. The Steelers have long been defined by their defensive toughness, and adding a player of Reed's caliber would send a message that they intend to reclaim their identity as a team that wins through relentless, disciplined defense. Such a move could influence locker room dynamics, energize the pass rush, and give the coaching staff more creative flexibility in game planning. It might also have a psychological impact on opponents, knowing they must now account for an extra layer of defensive suffocation. Whether this is simply the latest flare in the rumor-driven atmosphere of the NFL offseason or the first sign of an imminent signing spree, the speculation has already done its job. It has the football world talking about the Steelers in a way that feels both nostalgic and forward-looking. Until the ink is dry and the announcement made, all that remains is the tantalizing possibility that DJ Reed could be the newest weapon in Pittsburgh's arsenal. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.